Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Right Stuff Anime Podcast.
Hello.
Spring Simulcast edition.
Yeah. So much show.
So much anime. So little time.
No truer words.
All right, let's get through the introductions. I'm Will. I'm a social media coordinator.
I am Quinn. I'm a merchandising coordinator.
I am Devlin, and I'm a social media coordinator.
And I'm Chris. I'm also a merchandising coordinator. I forgot what I was for a second. Double clutch there.
You work here?
I wandered in. They were donuts.
Hi, I'm Olivia. I'm also here. I'm also just staring at the audio files. Yeah. I guess that makes me a producer. I'm professional.
So we have a producer now.
Yeah,
y'all.
we're getting
Upgrade.
we're leveling up our podcast.
And just like every podcast, she talks about 5% of the time.
I have to talk 5%.
You're doing a good job so far.
Yeah.
You're at 2%.
Well, before we get to the spring simulcast stuff, there were a couple of important news stuff that we should talk about. Chris, you're our big robot fan, and it was a big week for big robots.
Definitely. The big one that just dropped a couple of days ago for us here, the Gundam live-action movie being produced by Legendary Pictures has sort of been hovering in hiatus for the past couple years, but ground is finally getting covered on this. Jordan Vogt Roberts, who directed Kong Skull Island, is stepping up to take on the task, and the movie is going to premiere on Netflix. We still don't have a release date yet, but I'm super hyped about it because I'm a big Gundam guy. If you've listened to the podcast, you probably know that already. But also, the movies, at least the first draft, is being written by Brian K. Vaughan. He's a widely respected comic writer here in the Western Hemisphere. He created Saga, Why the Last Man, Runaways over at Marvel. Let's see, you can also get Saga and Why the Last Man and another of his series, Paper Girls, on our website if you want to check those out. But he's just a top-notch writer. He can handle all kinds of stories, and I'm really curious to see how he takes it, because one of the other things is we have no clue what this is going to be based on, whether it's going to be classic Universal Century stuff, one of the side stories, or just one complete new idea that just sort of is built around on how much giant robots are cool, but War of Giant Robots suck. So I'm super hyped for that. The other big giant robot news that I want to cover, we finally had a makeup between Japanese studios Big West and Studio Nue and Harmony Gold here in the US over the distribution of Macross and Robotech. Back in the 80s, Harmony Gold bought like 3 different series and smashed them together under the Robotech name. And because of that, they pretty much had a practical embargo on all Macross releases in the US. So we miss out on a lot of cool stuff like Macross 7, Macross 0, and some other newer series. Like, I think Macross Plus is the only one that sort of squeaked its way into the US in a while, and that was long ago enough that Bryan Cranston's in it. So that's saying something. But it is kind of nice that these really good, newer Macross series are going to finally be able to come over in the States. I am super excited because I respect the business. I don't steal bootlegs online, and I just want to watch the stories. So I'm super hyped for that.
All right, so I guess we should just go ahead and get the spring anime, but first, cue the sad music. Pull out those tears. We're gonna do a brief remembrance of the anime that is currently in Netflix jail.
It's in Netflix jail.
It got real weird.
All right, there will be Shaman King, which will be released later this year, Eden Zero, which will be coming out later this fall, and Godzilla Singular Point, which will be coming out in June.
You got really morose for that.
That's because they're in Netflix jail.
I know. It's just one of the weirdest things, like, coming at from somebody that watches both anime and Western TV shows, where it's like, I kind of appreciate the fact that anime comes out once a week, and companies like Funimation, Crunchyroll give it to us as it comes out, rather than just letting it build up, which is sort of funny, because there's other people with, like, some of the newer TV shows, like, say, a lot of the Disney Plus stuff, like the new Star Wars shows and WandaVision, things like that, where everybody's like, I want to binge it now. And I'm like, I like being able to sit and think about these episodes once in a while. and just being able to process that, and then you get to do that with the current anime too. But the Netflix, they like their binge model, and they want to dump it all on us at once.
I don't care about their binge model. I want it now.
Exactly.
I want it now.
I like binging, so I mean,
I'm okay with binging. I just want it have an option of
Yeah.
now.
I'm okay with binging if it's got like 6 or 7 seasons built up,
Do you
but
know
if
how
it's
much
something
binging
that's
I have?
coming out as it
Lots of
happens, don't make me wait. Just let me watch it.
Netflix jail.
All right. Well, now it's time to talk about the stuff that we can actually watch week to week.
Yay!
Well, I could do one that I know Devlin has seen.
yes.
It's called Odd Taxi.
Uh,
And yeah, it's that and another anime that I'm sure Quinn will be ecstatic about is the top first episodes of the season for me. If you don't know what Odd Taxi is, it's set in a world that might be filled with anthropomorphic animals.
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Like, I have like a weird roundabout theory. Like,
Yeah, like the reason why we're saying that is because so it stars a walrus taxi driver, and as you're driving around, you start to see different clues about what the world is actually about. The major thing that tipped me off was
Get mad.
Phrase it.
was that he was listening to this comedy radio duo, and their name was Homo sapiens.
yeah.
So to have a human name in a world full of animals is really weird.
There is Polar Bear Cafe. It has both humans and actual like walking, talking animals that work at the cafe. So this isn't a
No,
particularly strange concept then. Okay.
What
Well-
also kind of makes me think it might be his delusion in some weird sense is
It's a theory.
they show a lot of medicine too in it.
Yeah.
Like the opening
So-
scene, like he has like some prescriptions in his glove box.
Yeah, so one of the threads here is that
no.
so he's a taxi driver and he takes people around on like trips and stuff.
Yeah.
But there's this thread going along with like the medicine. Like the walrus has some medicine in his glove compartment. He goes to see a doctor who tries to prescribe him harsher meds for whatever condition he has.
And they
then
also
later on, there's this talk about medicine being stolen. And then you see that one of the people working at the doctor's office is talking to this baboon who we know is like some big like yakuza or assassin, we don't know. But like there's like what's great, as you could tell, there's a lot of connections that are immediately set up in the show. And to be able to do that in 20 minutes and to do so that's so mysterious and like compelling is just blew my mind when I was watching it.
Yes, and also like when he's in the doctor's office, you know, discussing like marriage a little bit with the doctor, they talk about Bruce Springsteen,
Oh.
which I'm like, wait, like, and they're like just discussing like a bunch of things that are connected to our world, and I'm like, what the heck? And even like the suspense when he's in his apartment just talking to
Something in the closet. Oh.
I don't
I don't
know.
want to spoil all the details, but like
There's so much happening.
yeah, there's so much happening in just 20 minutes.
Oh, okay, so based on the title and the animals in it, I thought this was like a comedy thing. This
No.
is definitely not a comedy
The-
thing. I want to see this now.
There is like some comedy.
Oh,
in
yeah,
it,
yeah.
like
But,
it's
like,
not
it's
the
done
it's not
in,
the
like,
little like crazy.
Another
comedy,
unique,
yeah.
because another unique thing about it is that like it's really the dialogue and acting is very naturalistic.
yes.
It feels like something that you would hear in your day-to-day life, not your typical like stereotypical anime talking.
Yeah.
What's the structure on it? Because it sounds to me like the name and the concept. It almost feels like it should be like sort of like Midnight Diner, which is a live action show on Netflix from Japan, where it's like all revolves around one thing, but it's different stories each time, like an anthology series. Is it like that, or is it actually
No,
full
it looks like
story?
it's gonna be. It seems like it's gonna be heavily serialized.
Interesting.
Yeah, like they're all connected. I feel like they're all connected by him, the
Yeah.
taxi driver.
Yeah,
Oh.
because like it's one of those things where you can make like a spider web. Like
Oh.
everybody is connected. Everybody introduced is connected to everybody somehow in some way.
And they all kind of like interact in different scenes, like without the walrus there, and then in the other scenes, like they're talking to the walrus and all that about what they were
Yeah.
talking about too. Like it's really crazy, and I was like thrown in knowing nothing, and I fell in love like the minute the opening happened. Like they have such a good song like for the opening.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
by Skirt and Punpee. Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
Highly recommend it. I think I've been sending it to everyone on the team. Like, hey, listen to this. It's great.
Yeah, there was no note in the notes about how it was the best opening ever.
No,
That didn't exist there at all.
No.
No.
I swear I didn't write that.
Missed opportunity to use I Am the Walrus, but it's fine.
No DMCA here. Yeah, but one that I want to talk about, I don't think anybody else has seen this. It's called Vivi.
Vivy.
Vivy. And so it's a kind of a unique concept. So it's set in the near future, and there's this big theme park that's totally run by AI. And the main character is a AI singer who is in a robot body, and she sings to basically an empty crowd. And so she feels like very, very alone, even though she's a robot and not really supposed to feel feelings all that much.
Mm-hmm.
And then later in the episode, there's this teddy bear in her apartment that comes to life. And it turns out that an AI 100 years in the future has come back into the past to help her stop a war that's about to happen in 100 years where the AI kills all the humans.
Huh.
And yeah, so it's a whole lot of like some weird time travel stuff, but I think it's got like really good action. And in terms of the story, the writer was the guy who's the mastermind behind ReZero
Okay.
as well. So you have some really nice, funny, and snappy dialogue, but also some nice heavy themes with like related to AI to go with it, as well as of course the good action that I mentioned. And it's just a very well done and directed show. And I feel like over the 2 episodes that make up its premiere, it does a really good job setting everything up. I know what I'm talking about. It sounds complicated, but the show was able to do an easy job of explaining everything, and it really sets up an interesting world and characters that I want to see more of.
From the sound of it, it reminds me of Planetarium. Is that similar, or is it just the setup that sounds similar?
The setup sounds similar, but
Okay.
no, there's a lot more. Vivi becomes more of an action star as the 2 episodes go on.
Yeah,
Okay.
it sounds like a much nicer, probably less violent version of Westworld.
Yeah, Westworld, or like I'm sure the creators were watching Ghost in the Shell before they started working on Vivi.
And see, I was thinking of Maggie Brilliant Park when you said it was set in a theme park.
Oh yeah. I mean, they both share a livable teddy bear.
But this isn't Fumofu. That's what matters.
Sadly not.
Oh,
But they do
man.
both star blue-haired girls and a living teddy bear.
Nice.
How many comparisons did we draw to this show?
that aren't
All-
related?
Yep.
The unrelated cinematic universe.
See, the only thing I could think of was One Piece, like the bear from like the Thriller Bark.
Oh yeah.
I know you're in it.
Kumasi. I just finished Thriller Bark, so I know what you're talking about.
Yep. See, that's the only bear that I can think of for some odd reason. I don't know.
Devlin just wanted to be a part of the conversation.
I know some anime.
Involving bears.
Yes.
Kuma. Oh.
Alright.
So I'll take over a few. 2 Year Eternity is a big talker.
Yeah.
Poor
keep
Will.
Keep talking.
I can-
I'll just cry a little bit.
Have you actually seen it? Yes or no?
Yes, I have seen it.
Okay. Yay! Somebody to talk about with this show. Yay! So, 2 Year Eternity was written by the same author of A Silent Voice, and it is completely different. It is more of a fantasy show, and you can't really talk about the first episode without giving away a few things, which is pretty much like the first 30 seconds. So, it doesn't really star the boy that's in all the promo material. It's an orb that eventually will take his form. But that first episode is just, it's not afraid to just sit and let you be in the atmosphere. And that's what I really appreciated about it. It's really gorgeous artwork. It lets you feel those emotions and just, you're gonna cry, people.
Yeah.
I've read the manga up to volume 11 and I knew what was coming and I'm still like,
Yeah.
So, yeah, and it's the story of the orb discovering just what it means to live.
Mhm.
That's like the best description.
Yeah, he gets to experience so many emotions for the first time, and it's interesting to see whatever this thing is like react to it. And as someone whose mood is very influenced by the music they're listening to, oh my gosh, this show took me on a emotional roller coaster ride. It was just some fantastic orchestra music.
Yeah, it's very gorgeous. And that first episode is kind of self-contained with the story of the boy. So as it moves on, you'll get introduced to more characters who partake in the story of the orb. And it gets very, how do I want to say this without spoiling stuff? The title, it lives up to the amount of time that this story takes place in. And it will do it well. So don't worry about things getting drug out. It's very, very well done. And like I said, it's also written by the same author as The Silent Voice, who, if you've seen that movie or read the manga, tearjerkers, very, very good at pulling at your heartstrings. You'll have tears of joy, tears of sadness. You'll just be happy. You'll be sad. Everything. So look forward to To Your Eternity. The hype is real.
I almost checked it out last night, but I didn't feel like crying. So, so instead I watched Odd Taxi, so.
Yeah. Well, that first episode, it's like a combination of just super hopeful, and then stuff will crash down. You'll be hopeful again. It's just roller coaster. It's very good. And yes, you probably would have been crying.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's worth it, people. It's worth it. Watch it.
I'm always in the mood for a good ugly cry, so.
Yeah.
You'll get there eventually.
Yeah, I talked to you earlier about it. Like, I am the wimpiest wimpy crybaby of all time. Like, I am our department's resident crybaby, probably.
Yeah. But I know what stuff is coming and it still makes me cry. It's like, that's good. That's real good. On a completely different note, also I've seen the Slime Diaries, which for people that have been watching that time I've got reincarnated as a slime. This is a lighthearted look at life in Tempest. It really honestly feels like they took the bonus chapters from the manga and stuck them all together. They're little vignettes that just feature Rimuru and everybody in town, and Rimuru is the butt of so many jokes. Oh my gosh, you forget that he could just like crush everybody if he wanted to. He just takes it. The favorite one that stuck out to me was the crew was giving him a hard time about he hasn't seen slimes really in the world, which when you stop and think about it, it's like, yeah, where are all the slimes? And everybody's like, oh yeah, they only really come out in the summer and they're delicious chilled. And he freaks out and runs away and is like, no, you're not gonna eat me. And they're all like, we were kidding, come back. Come back. So you get a lot of little stories like that all pushed together in about a 25-minute episode. And I mean, I kept thinking, okay, I'm gonna stop here, and then the next little story would grab me and make me laugh, and so I'd keep going. It's a good lighthearted laugh and look at Tempest. So if you're into slime, make sure to pick up Slime Diaries too.
I wonder if it's similar to the one manga that I reviewed.
Trinity and Tempest?
Yes, that one.
I think that one is told from the perspective of three other girls, right?
Okay.
This is literally just following Rimuru around. At least the first episode was.
Okay.
Because I thought it was going to be like that too.
Yeah, because I did read that and I was like, oh, this is like a way different look at like that time I got reincarnated as a slime, you know? But I wonder, has she shown up at all, or do you think she's going to show up?
I don't know. Like I said, I don't think that it's built like that. I think that's its own thing, because this one just followed Rimuru around a lot.
Okay.
One thing I forgot to mention, though, is that the character designs are slightly different. So it looks visually different, like they're rounder. That took a little getting used to, and I don't understand why. They didn't look that far off model from the main show, but they're rounder. And Rimuru looks like he turned into a kid. He's a little too little now.
Yeah, I've seen some memes around like Slime Diaries, so I definitely saw like the roundness and all that, but
yeah, but super funny. Highly recommend.
I'm guessing it's definitely a different take from season 2 of Slime.
Oh yeah, season 2 is going dark, people. It's going dark.
So
this is the lighthearted opposite of that. Yes.
yes.
Devin, what have you been watching?
You should know. Shonen Boy has been watching Shonen. So, of course, I've been watching and keeping up with My Hero Academia. Season 5 has been so good. Oh my gosh. So
And somebody remembered to watch the end past the credits this time. Good job.
Yes! Yay! I have learned. I'm learning. Watch out. So definitely, like, season 5 kicks off like where the season 4 ended with the Endeavor and Nomaru fight, and Hawk helping him out during that fight, and then we see the appearance of Dabi more. You know, he actually comes up to Endeavor and, you know, talks to him. And they tease that. And, we also get to see Class 1A and Class 1B duke it out, which I'm super excited for. Like, they just hit how they're going to show off their abilities and how they're going to test their abilities against each other, which I'm so excited for, besides revealing a little bit more about One for All and what all that power is, you know, hiding from Deku a little bit, but, you know, just giving him a little bit.
I really wish they would have named those two different things. I can't keep them straight. I don't know which one is which.
Very much same. I mean, I always say all for one and one for all and get them all mixed up, but I know who I'm talking about in my mind.
That's better than I do.
Yeah. Overall, I'm just so excited for where the season's going. I know that in the manga it's going to be crazy, but I refuse to read the manga right now. I probably will need more as soon as season 5 ends, so watch out.
All right, I'll talk about something I've been watching lately. I have been waiting about this one for about a year or so. We just had recently debut SSSS Dynazenon. For those of y'all in the know, that aren't in the know, this is sort of a companion series to Gridman, which came out a couple of years ago, and was surprisingly deep for a show that was based off a Sentai show from the 90s. And they've continued on that vibe so far. They're only 2 episodes in, so they haven't really established a lot of the weirdness of the world yet. But it seems to be a little more leaning towards Power Rangers as far as the structure goes, where it's one guy, Galma, shows up and he just says he's a kaiju user. And when a kaiju shows up in town, he helps assemble a random group of teens to help fight the monster using their own mecha, the Dynazenon, which transforms into a giant flying T-Rex, and is just really cool.
Oh my gosh.
But at the same time, they got some interesting character dynamics. Like the 2 lead characters, Yume and Yomogi, are awkward. Yomogi asked Yume out for a date, and she stood him up. And then they got grabbed into the mecha to fight the giant robot without even knowing it. And also they grabbed these couple of Hikikomori cousins that are just off in another area as the other pilots. And so it's just like interesting to see these characters interact in awkward ways emotionally. I'm really curious to see where Yume and Yomogi are going to go, since they've got that bit of conflict where, oh yeah, I was attracted to you, but you stood me up. And now we have to commit to fighting this robot, or these monsters.
Not awkward at all.
And they've started to tease the villains now that are possibly other kaiju users, but we still don't know much about them because like Gridman, they're being very patient and slow with the info they give you. It's
Nice.
Outside of the mecha action, it's a very sort of like cool, slow-paced show. I don't want to full-on compare it to Makoto Shinkai because it's not that heavily emotional, but like the soundtrack is pretty sparse. The scenes just get to breathe a bit, and so you sort of live in this world and get to know them. But then people are just like, oh, here's this giant tortoise monster that's shooting lasers and exploding a big chunk of the city. Let's get in our robot T-Rex and fight it.
An evil
So
camera.
it's a really interesting mix of vibes, and the CG is really pretty, like nice sort of sort of line art style graphics, so it stands out really well. I'm enjoying it so far, but like I said, we're only 2 episodes in, so.
I do have a question. How did they select these teams? Was it by angst, like Mighty Morphin Power Rangers?
I don't know, they just got kind of grabbed. They're all, for the most part, pretty laid back. Like, Yume's just sort of sullen because she's apparently the type of person who just stands a lot of people up anyway.
Oh.
But otherwise, they just seem like normal kids. Like, the second episode revolves around how Yomogi is busy trying to do his real job and not, like, get sucked into it. But then they're like, oh yeah, you have to help and fight these things.
Ah.
But then there's also, like, the Hikikomori kids. The brother, the boy cousin is the one that is actually in the suit. The girl is just sort of tagging along. He's just like, does this mean I'm employed now? So no, it's really interesting. The character dynamics, I think, are going to be a lot of fun. So I'm looking forward to this one.
I might have to check it out just because how you were describing it, I just kept thinking Power Rangers, and then Power Rangers, like the theme song just kept going through my head. So now I'm like, I want to see Power Rangers.
They like their hippie intros. The intro for Gridman was a lot of fun, if you ask me. So I'm excited to see more of the new show.
Do you have to see Gridman to get this new show?
Not at all. That's one of the nice things about this. Like, it seems to be a shared universe, but so far there's been no connective tissue between the two.
That's good.
I have a feeling, though, if you do want to watch Gridman down the road, it may help you with what turns out happening. Because there's some weird ideas going on in Gridman. That's part of why I think you should check it out. I'm glad a lot of people jumped on that. We just did a sale and it was my top seller in it. So
Nice.
Woo!
it's something, I think it's a lot of people may have slept on it a couple years ago.
Mhm.
I got into it mainly because I found out they were using like third-tier Transformers designs in hints in some of the characters. Like, oh, this is from this weird version of Hot Shot that was exclusively only available at BotCon 2016 or whatever. And I'm just like, okay, that's weird, but this is kind of cool. And oh, it's actually a good show. So, big fan of that one. Haven't really watched much else yet, but there's another one that's on my radar that I'm really excited about because it's based off a really good video game that came out about 15 years ago. This one's called The World Ends With You. It is based off a DS game that Square Enix put out a while back. It's coming out for Switch now here within the next month or so, I believe.
The sequel is coming out.
Oh yeah, that's it. Neo, The World Ends With You. But it's the storyline. It's like kids have ended up in some sort of netherworld because they've died or something like that. And so they are in a competition to see who can survive and fight off enough monsters to get reborn at the end of the week. And it takes place in like it's Shibuya.
I was gonna say
Took me a while to
that,
get
but
there.
then I was like, nah.
But
Everything
so
takes place in
it's
Shibuya.
very stylish. It's like the characters were created by Tetsuya Nomura, who did a lot of the like the middle like Final Fantasy X and things like that. So if you like flared collars, baggy shorts, and zippers, you're in for a treat.
Woohoo, zippers!
Don't forget the big shoes.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
the big
big
shoes.
shoe.
And this one will probably have a lot of pins too, because one of the mechanics in the game was like you equip certain pins, like buttons, and they gave you power up. So they might have to fold that into the show somehow, like just have people with way too much accessories. I mean, I've seen them on convention backpacks, so they can fit that in the show for sure. But I'm pretty hyped for that one.
The trailer definitely looked really cool, so I might have to check that out too. Is it on Crunchyroll then, or?
I know it's on Funimation.
Okay.
I don't know about Crunchyroll.
It's Funimation only.
Yeah.
Okay.
Funimation only. Gotcha.
Do we get to call that Funimation jail?
Ooh.
Well,
Hey, some stuff
Not
in
really.
Crunchyroll jail for me. So.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody's in jail. But we get our weekly streaming.
Yes.
Yep.
Anybody else here have
They're-
a high dive? I do.
Yay!
One I also wanted to talk about is, as a guy who does enjoy robots, but more of the realistic robot stuff, 86 I finally watched the episode yesterday, and I was very intrigued by it.
Those are some giant spider robots. They're
Yeah.
like Tachikomas on drugs.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
for me, I guess, as someone who checked out the manga, the first volume of the manga, and then watched the show, if you're a fan of Gundam, the 8th MS team, or you also enjoy the grittiness of like armored Votons, I think this is a good one for you because, like 8th MS team, the 86 division is actually going out and doing this big war in their smaller robots. Have a nice dynamic similar to 8th MS team, but like Votons, the mechas really suck. So they die. So people can die very easily.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of degradedness to that. But what makes it unique and separate from those is the backstory of the war.
Yeah.
So obviously there's two sides battling each other, but the side that we're focusing on, that our protagonists are part of, they were originally 86 what were they called? Divisions or sections?
I
Districts.
thought that was the name of the actual like squad.
Oh yeah, it was. But before the war started, there were like 86 districts.
There was too much going on in this. I missed this part completely.
I think I know this because I read the manga. I read the manga.
Mm.
So there were originally 86 districts, and then the war happened, and nobody liked the 86th district. So they were ostracized from society and security, and they were forced to go into war in these mechas. But since they were so ostracized and treated as basically subhuman, when reports for casualties of the war come in, it comes in with 0 casualties.
Jeez.
So people either ignore that humans are piloting the mechas, or the government has been lying to them that they've been all like drones or been drones.
See, watching the show. So I've only seen the first episode, and I was getting hints of like number 6. Because in that show as well, you've got the higher class society that's segregated itself away from the low class humans. And you really get that, especially the fact that all the people wandering around the high-tech city all have silvery hair.
Yeah.
Like, there isn't anybody without that
There's
color
a-
hair. It was weird.
There's a whole lot of silver hair and blue eyes.
Yeah.
Like they all have a homogeneous look to them.
Mm-hmm. And then you've got the pilots of the spider touch comas, because I refuse to call them what they are because I think it's funny. And they are the normal people.
Mm-hmm.
And the main girl, she refuses to believe that the war is being fought with drones. And that's how the government seems to be passing it off, that these are all automated systems. And the automated systems, just hearing her talk to them without seeing the other side for the first episode for a while, makes you go, these are really, really super intelligent AI, or they're not.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked that mystery that first episode builds
Yeah,
to
it
the
was.
world.
I really like the structure of it, split into 2 distinct halves. First off, focusing on the girl and the whole high society stuff, and then focusing on the leader of the 86, one of the 86 infant division that they were working on, that she was working with. Helps build a nice dichotomy between the 2 life experiences they have.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, this one definitely caught my attention. I didn't think I'd enjoy just the first episode as much as I did. I'm definitely sticking with this one.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And as a fan of sports anime, I definitely wanted to check out Farewell, My Dear Kramer.
Mm-hmm.
I read the first volume of the manga as with Chris.
You and I both did the review for the
Yeah.
site, so.
Yeah, Kodansha labeled it as Sayonara Football, just FYI, in case you were looking up on our site and like, why is it starts at volume 3 instead of 2?
Yeah,
So there's a prequel.
yeah, which directly is a continuation of volume. So it goes 1, 2, and then 3. But Farewell Kramer is on 3, and 1 and 2 are a continued story into that. It's confusing. Just pick up 1 and go through it.
Mm-hmm.
Forget about the subtitle part. I'll shut up now.
But as you can guess, it is a sports anime, but it focuses on a girl's high school soccer team. And what's I find really great about it is just how much it treats the characters and the sport with like a really great sense of respect. It's been a while since I've seen like a women's sports anime where they're more than just like, it's basically cute girls doing cute scenes but then play sports.
Or they take it to the other extreme and go full fan service.
Yeah. And it's nice to see him like treated more realistically. The guy who originally wrote the manga did like Your Lie in April. So you could tell that he enjoys doing more character, introspective writing, which shows up in this show a lot. And it just takes me back to like things like Princess 9, which I feel like is the last show that I feel like that's been able to do something like this. So it's something that I really enjoy and wanting to. Hopefully it gets better and better as it goes along. And I'm definitely going to stick around to see what it does.
Would it be fair to say that this is like the equivalent of Haikyuu It's just focusing on a different sport with female leads.
I haven't
You
seen
have
Haikyuu.
seen Haikyuu. I knew that was gonna happen, dang
I
it.
think it might not be as focused on sports as Haikyuu is. It might have more to do with the interpersonal relations on top of that. Because like the characters have interesting backgrounds. Like the one that's the focus of Sayonara football, she was not allowed to play soccer for the most part during her middle school years because her school didn't have a girls' soccer team. So she was on the boys' team, but strictly not allowed to play until finally, like one of the last games she could get in, they caved and let her in as a substitute, and she just tore it up because she actually trained with like the best guy on their team.
Okay.
So that's at least a good inspirational lead into that.
Yeah.
But I think it's more like, it might be a little more slice of lifey where it's like getting into their high school relationships and things like that.
Okay.
There's a big theme about growing up and change through the show and the manga, and I'm sure that's going to be explored fully in the anime as well.
And I'll just use this as a segue into the other sports anime that I'm kind of looking forward to. I still haven't had a chance to check this one out, but it was on my list of stuff to watch this season just because, for one thing, it's an interesting sport, and another thing, it's just really weird. The show I'm talking about is Burning Kabaddi. And this is it's a sport from, I believe it's India, if I remember correctly. I'm blanking on the
I
actual...
think it's the national sport of Bangladesh.
It wouldn't shock me, but pretty much the whole concept of the sport itself, it's like competitive tag. Like you have players 5 aside on about a small sort of like mini sort of volleyball court style court. And players take turns trying to jump over to the other side and tagging as many people as they can and getting back to their side before getting tackled, all in one breath.
In one breath?
Yep, and so how you are fact-checked on doing that is when you tag somebody, you have to start chanting kabaddi, 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 and rush back to your side. And if they tackle you or if you breathe, you don't get any points. And I haven't watched a ton of this. It has sort of like a weird dodgeball concept where people can be eliminated at some point, I think. There's actually a great YouTube video from a channel called People Make Games that explains the rules of kabaddi. And it's really informative, but I really want to see this applied to a classic high school shonen sports anime. And that's what this is. And so I haven't watched it yet, sadly, so I don't know details. But I want to, just because it sounds fascinating.
We're all gonna be running around the building going, kabaddi, 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 kabaddi
Yeah.
now.
Like, it's popped up in anime before. I remember watching Chio's School Road.
Huh.
And there was a girl in there who played on her girls' kabaddi team, but of course, because that show's a little bit twisted, it's mainly because she wanted to grope other girls.
Of course.
So that was super awkward.
Yay, anime.
This one is a little less creepy, I think.
I would hope so.
I guess I can springboard off of the niche sports anime that are airing this season and talk about Backflip. It's about men's rhythmic gymnastics.
Wow.
Which I'm pretty sure is a sport that's only in Japan.
I was gonna say,
Uh-huh.
I don't know if I've ever heard of rhythmic men's
Yeah.
I've seen it in
gymnastics
the
before.
Olympics.
It's in the Olympics, yeah.
Okay.
I've only seen women's rhythmic
Yeah,
gymnastics.
yeah.
But
Oh.
yeah, so that's also a thing.
Mhm.
I saw the first episode, and it seems alright so far. If you can look past kinda funky CG on like the more intricate things, that's good on you. But it seems like it'd be another fun random little ride so far. It's just a kid who decides to quit baseball and then try rhythmic gymnastics instead, because that is a very logical, switch.
Natural jump, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Natural jump.
I was not going for that, damn it.
It really fits in with his inner beat.
Ba-dum-bum.
Okay, I think we're getting off base here.
Aw.
Hold on. Yeah, I didn't have a whole lot to really interject with it. I just found it funny that there were a lot of like niche sports and/or activities going on too. If you're thinking it's gonna be like Gymnastic Samurai, it's kind of not. And that was another one that was going on because definitely everybody was thinking about Gymnastic Samurai. It definitely wasn't just me. This is just my excuse to talk about Gymnastic Samurai, I guess.
Olivia's going for that full 5% today.
Yes.
I mean, I could probably go for 6 if we talk about those Snow White notes.
Oh,
Oh.
yeah.
Segway.
That's that was, aside from Fruits Basket season, what we're at, season 3, I guess, Fruits Basket, the final. Aside from that, Fruits Basket, those Snow White Notes were like the only 2 shows I really cared about this season. So, or at least like I knew that I wanted to watch before the season started. I've kind of been like finding random episodes here and there, but those Snow White Notes is definitely one that I'm interested in.
I got Barakamon vibes off of it, sort of, because he's like trying to find himself and his art better.
But what's the premise of the show?
So, I wrote this down.
It's about traditional Japanese music, essentially.
Yeah,
it's,
the shamisen.
yeah, the shamisen,
Nice.
which
That's that one.
Yeah,
so it's about this guy. Setsu.
this guy.
This guy. So he learned how to play the shamisen from his grandfather, who had recently passed, and his grandpa's dying wish was basically, when I die, stop playing.
Yeah, he had to find his own sound.
Find his own way in life and sound and stuff. So he leaves his, what seems like a small town. He kind of has like a bit of like a country accent almost.
Yeah, they really do. They have a regional dialect, because at one point when he gets to Tokyo, the girl's like, "Are you even from Japan?" He's like, "Yeah." What?
But yeah, he moves from his small town without any real plan and goes to Tokyo, and it's just trying to like have him find his way, find his music, and it's really interesting so far. I have never really heard much of the shamisen before, but like I do like a lot of like traditional Japanese music. I think it's really interesting, and like this one specifically, I don't know, it's like a weird mix of like strings, but it's also kind of percussive in a way, because like it's
They have
hitting
like a
the string.
pick instead of like just strumming on it, and the pick allows them to make a wider range of sounds. It looks like a square banjo in a way, with the pick and the strumming, and it's got 3 knobs on the top to tune it. If you hear it, you'll know what it sounds like. It's in everything Japanese culture.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I'm picturing Wano in One Piece, and I'm pretty sure they have it there.
Probably.
Yep.
Probably.
It's like their.
Yeah.
Most likely, yeah.
It's almost like 2 instruments in one in that sense, because you
Yeah.
kind of have like the rhythmicness of it, but then you still have like the string tone too. So I think it's really cool, and plus like especially in the openings and the endings, it's like you'll hear like the shamisen mixed in with like modern hip hop, or like kind of like blending of traditional music and modern tastes has been something really interesting. I don't know about you, I wish it wasn't set in a high school. Like
It's not.
Did you watch the second episode?
No, I have
He
not.
goes to high school.
No!
Like, that's what I was so disappointed about.
Why?
The first episode was like a really interesting concept. He meets this like actress who keeps getting pushed by her manager to go the more 18+ route of acting.
Yeah, and then the boyfriend is all like, hey babe, I love you, but I need money.
Money, please.
Yeah, oh, that guy could just get kicked to the curb. So far. He does, but then he shows back up, and I'm like, what the heck are you doing back here? I don't know.
Yeah.
It also made me think that, just based on the first episode, now that I've learned this high school thing, I'm like, what? That maybe his story would have more stories revolving around him as it moves on. Maybe not so much as like Violet Evergarden does, but to that extent where he shows up in other people's stories, but you're following him like Mushishi. But on the culture note, I also wanted to mention that for anybody who's seen Rakugo, the Rakugo show,
Shinji.
yeah, a lot of the cultural aspect of what's very common in Japan, I think you'll find really interesting, because you get to learn about the culture that's behind this very common thing that Japanese people grow up with, that they're like, that's just normal. And I just found that aspect also really interesting. So
Yeah, like since I've seen the second episode, like other people do get introduced. Like you meet his older brother. His mom is one who like tells him to go to school and like pays for his like schooling or whatever. But I don't know, just it. I mean, I haven't seen Kono Oto Tamare, but it kind of reminds me of that kind of sense. It's like there's like a girl who's introduced who wants to start like a shamisen club. It's like, okay, I get what you're going for here, and I do still find it interesting. I just really liked the idea that I could watch something that's not a bunch of high schoolers.
just make him college age. That alone would help.
Even just switch from.
He looks like he's college age. I've lost faith in this show already.
Oh no!
Good job bringing it up.
You haven't made it to episode 2 yet.
I'll still watch it. It'll just go down the queue a little bit. That's all.
Well, rip. That was.
I'm sorry. Don't do what I do, people. Just keep watching it. Give them the credits. Does anyone want to actually talk about that in a positive note, and I'll keep quiet?
I mean, I kind of did. I don't know. I think it's neat.
Okay, Olivia has a
I will probably still
outstanding ovation on that.
I'll probably still keep watching it. It's I've been trying to get my partner to watch like more and more anime too, and it's kind of like pulling teeth in a way, like because they'll get like super focused on like one series or whatever, and then that's the only thing they want to watch. Like I got them introduced to JoJo's, and I created a monster, and then they started Attack on Titan, and that's just a whole other animal, and it's just so like being able to find someone else to like talk to about these more niche quiet shows is good, but I don't know, I got them to watch it, so that was
Hey,
progress. Exactly. We're out of shonen punchy boys. At least a little bit.
At
Yeah.
least until the new series starts.
Yeah.
They're already rewatching. They're already in season 3. Attack on Titan again.
Again.
Well, Stone Ocean probably won't be started by the time they catch up, so you got a little bit of time to fit some other stuff in there.
You could get them involved in My Hero Academia.
She said no more shonen punchy boys.
They like shonen punchy boys, so
It might actually kind of work because we watched like the first episode of Talentless Nana together, and he really liked the guy that was introduced in the first episode.
Yup.
So we might just segue into My Hero, maybe.
Maybe.
I feel like
You
it's
can
more
do Assassination Classroom.
maybe. I feel like the next one on the chopping block would probably be Jujutsu Kaisen just because of the TikTok rabbit hole they're in.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Everywhere.
Still need to finish that. Well.
I'm in the same boat. They took a week break, and I was like, oh, I guess that was the end of the season. And then I found out later, oh, there's been more episodes. Oops.
I stopped after episode 1. Sorry, not sorry. Once I got into the Naruto hand signs to summon the demon dogs, I couldn't stop laughing, and I noped out.
Well, to segue into Ranting Hood, I did watch The Pretty Boy Detective Club. This one caught my attention just on the premise. So they have 3 rules, which I'm probably going to get wrong because I don't have them in front of me. But they have to be a boy, they have to be pretty, and they have to be a detective. This is a club at this like ridiculous school, which if you've seen over on High School Host Club, multiply the glitter and the glitz. And these boys find this girl on a rooftop, and she's wishing to, I don't know.
To find a star.
To find a star, be an astronaut, and just not give up on her dream. But the main boy is like, oh, but sometimes when dreams die, that's the most pretty. And I'm like, what? And they introduce the rest of the club, and they're all these boys that shouldn't get along that are there, that insist that they don't get along, but yet they do. And it's by the same author as the Monogatari series. So if you like Socrates and philosophy talk, the whole thing is just, we may do this, but it could be this, but hey, what about this? And that's like the whole conversation, and the girl occasionally gets mad at them, and I'm like, yes, break them, I don't care.
But they're so pretty.
That's what they keep doing! They're like, I'm pretty! Oh my
And they're
gosh.
detectives.
It's also set in middle school, though, so that's kind of
Oh.
cool. One of them's like canonically 12.
I don't know. They're just, and the track kid is way too obsessed with his own legs. Please stop. Like, he's not even sitting on the couch right. He's just like, legs up. Look at me and my pretty legs. And I'm just like, okay, guys, you're taking this pretty boy thing a little too far.
Thank you for saying.
Yes!
I got about 3/4 of the way through the first episode. I don't know if I'm gonna finish it.
Oh.
Well, I mean, not the series, but
Yeah.
the first episode even. I mean, sometimes I have that. Like, I'm watching an episode of something, my app crashes or whatever, and I don't feel compelled to start it up again.
Yup.
Cop skate leading stars.
Yeah. I mean, I wanted to like this, and I don't know if I can get through the philosophical talking and the very self-absorbed egos that are here. I'm gonna finish the second episode just because it's a continuation of the first one to see if they can wrap this up and go on to a new detective segue.
New case.
Yeah, a new case, because I'm sure they're gonna have more than just her, but I think reading the back of the novels, it sounds like she might kind of join up. So you've got more Around High School Host Club type of, hey, we've got a girl in here too, she breaks a rule. Maybe I'm just reading into that, I don't know. If you like eye candy though, the show is really pretty.
So pretty.
It is so pretty. And I'm not even including Mr. Leg Boy. He
No,
goes on the
just
side.
aesthetically, yeah.
Yeah, it's
Like,
really gorgeous to look at for the show.
I think this is my first show that I've seen by the studio Shaft, if I remember correctly. I think it's a Shaft show, but like, I don't know. I've seen like pictures of some of their stuff, and I know it's usually real pretty. But
Yeah.
this is the first thing I've seen from them before.
Yeah, it's really gorgeous artwork. I think that's mostly why I wanted to check it out. So if you like the Monogatari stuff, you'll probably really like this. I did not sing its praises, but that doesn't mean it doesn't deserve them. I'm just not its target audience, apparently.
The fashion's cool. Their uniforms are pretty neat.
Yeah.
Lots of stripes.
I feel sorry for the animators. I'm like, you got to keep those things right. And I think they just gave up and they're like, no, everything is just vertical. Everything is vertical. We don't care if it's supposed to bend there. No.
Like did you ever watch Chowder growing up? Where like
Yes.
it's like with Chowder where the characters would move, but the pattern would stay the same. So it kind of like almost looked like a rolling like pattern movement.
Didn't
kind of
Genkuso,
It's not quite that bad. Yeah,
Katamari Grisso do something similar to that
Yes.
too a while back?
It is not that heavy textured stuff.
Yeah.
But the Ganketsu, yes, they did.
Okay.
Interesting.
That wraps up my list of what I have seen. And I still have stuff on my list to see. The season is huge.
Yeah. I've already gone through all my stuff.
I did write down one that didn't make my list, so I think I can cover that real quick because it just got out of Netflix jail last week.
Oh.
I'm talking about Way of the House Husband.
Oh, yes.
This has been okay.
That was a
Sorry.
Devlin's got opinions.
Okay, so Way of the House Husband is in a kind of weird spot because it technically never had a Netflix jail because it was made for Netflix.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but I mean, it still hung out being made for a while, didn't it?
It's kind of like what they do with Agretzko. Like since like Agretzko
Oh,
was
okay.
made for Netflix, they just like launch it all at once. Like
Yeah.
All right.
basically like
In Japan, it's like that too.
So I
Yeah,
didn't realize
it's
that.
like-
I thought maybe it actually got a normal release, but
no, it's
Oh,
like
no.
it's been.
They heard your prayers and
No.
said, look, you can binge the whole thing.
Yeah.
I mean, they actually. I think they.
This works better though. I think.
I think they actually only have the first half of the series up, if I remember right. 'Cause
Yeah.
I looked through the,
Yeah, it has a second
That's
season.
probably that's how they did Great Pretender too. So it's probably similar. to
Yeah, it's
that.
like only 5 episodes I think on Netflix right now.
But they go fast because pretty much the concept, if you're not familiar with it, it's about a former yakuza thug who finds the love of his life, gets married, and then just decides to stay at home and take care of the place while she's off to work at her office. And so it's very much a sort of like not so much fish out of water. He seems to take to his position quite easily. But everyone else is just getting weirded out because there's this guy with a massive scar on his eye and badass Yakuza tattoos on his back.
He
Just-
didn't really give up the look either.
No, he's just wearing his cool Yakuza suit, going to the grocery store with his Shiba Inu apron on,
Yeah.
just buying groceries and living his day-to-day life, and everybody's just super scared. It's like, oh man, this guy's a badass. He's gonna kick my ass. And then he's just like, could you show me where like the bananas are? I'm having trouble finding them. So it's very silly stuff like that. There's one episode I saw before I went to work this morning where he was having a cook-off with another super tough-looking like food truck guy who could make the best dessert. And there's also one where he and his wife go car shopping, and it gets very silly. Like he actually tests it out by lying in the back of the hatchback and be like, "Oh, you can fit a whole body back here."
Of course.
But it's very structured like Azumanga Daioh, where it's like they fit like a whole bunch of short vignettes into a short span. The episodes are only like 16 minutes long, and so each story is about only 3 minutes long. But it's just a very fun, brisk story. Also, the style's kind of interesting because they have a lot of the scenery comes in as swooping like comic panels with the sound effects popping up on the screen. So it has a little bit like you're almost reading the book again. So very cool, stylish, and very silly.
I like the story of House Husband a lot. Like I think I have the first 2 volumes of the manga if I remember correctly. But I watched the first episode of House Husband, didn't quite vibe with the animation style they chose, and when Netflix decided to autoplay, I was like, oh honey, no, we're stopping here. This is all we're getting so far. I might go and try it later, but I think the scene that got me the most was when the 2 guys were chasing him, and they didn't realize he was running to like the clearance section of the clothing store.
Yeah.
And they just took the frames of the 2 guys quote unquote running and just wiggled them. And I just don't know how to feel about it, I guess.
And sometimes, that's not just being cheap. That's comedic effect. like you just see stuff like that sometimes, where it's just like, all right, we're just going to be really silly and simple. I think that's like something you can appreciate almost in this. So.
Yeah, I wish I knew that was what they were going to do prior to watching it. Like if I knew what I was getting in for, I might have been a little
I get that.
more content with
Yeah,
it. Like
true.
there's some stuff that I think is kind of funny with its bad animation. Like I always go back to like the scene in Cromartie High School where the guy's talking and his ear just moves away from his head.
Yep.
Because they just forgot to move it and they just rolled with it.
Or
It's fine.
like in modern or like American cartoons where they'll do the walk down the hall and it's just the same scenery over and over again. And they just goof on that.
I think I'll stick with the manga for now, I guess, and maybe try more when there's more content
Thanks.
out there. There you go, another rant out of me.
Yes, we did. She's up
Yep.
to maybe 8%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't actually go doing math on those people. I have no idea. I'm just throwing numbers out.
When she hits 20, she has to become a regular full-fledged member of the
Yeah.
podcast. So.
Mhm.
Oh. If you want me to get that far ahead, just have me rant about something else, I guess. Anyone want to talk about Skate?
Haven't seen it.
Next episode, I guess. Or maybe the episode
Or maybe a few
after.
episodes after, because a nice little segue here. Next episode we already have planned. We're going to watch Wonder Egg Priority.
Or
Yep.
rewatch.
Yeah, or rewatch. And so we're going to be doing that, and as I'm sure you guys know, it has a lot of trippy visuals, a lot of deep meaning and symbolism in there.
Or just weird stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it would be cool to have some audience quote-unquote participation. So if you have any specific questions or discussion points you would want us to talk about in the podcast, we would love your suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
Send it over to rspodcast@rightstuff.com. And if we find them, we'll go ahead and put them in the show, and we'll talk about them.
That'd be really excellent.
You're terrible.
Stop it. Stop.
But
Just crack open that email and just
let's scramble some things up.
yes.
We're gonna look at the sunny side of things.
Oh my God. We'll just wrap this up so we can get rid of these puns. Oh,
We're getting rid of them now so we don't have to do them later.
stop
Oh, there'll
egging
be
him
more.
on.
Oh
There'll be
yes.
more. We gotta remember more. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I might have to listen to this episode again so I can poach them for later.
Oh, it's gonna be egg time.
So this is the
Yeah, I
last
got two
episode of the pod.
Shell, yeah.
All right, so just to make sure, rspodcast@rightstuff.com. All right, now we're going to close out with the sales updates.
We've got the sales. They are going on now at rightstuffanime.com. Currently going. We've got Vertical and Dark Horse weekly specials. That is going on now. And there are some manga in the sale, which we are streaming this season. So if you're looking to pick up Pretty Boy Detective Agency, that has some novels available and a pre-order for the manga. And Don't Toy With Me, Miss Nagatoro, which nobody talked about, but it is an insane seller. And you guys have been buying that like crazy, so that is in the sale currently. I'm sure that people that like teasing Master Takagi-san, I think I killed that possibly. I hear it's similar, but a little more...
Aggressive?
Yeah, that's a good way to say it. So, those two titles are in the sale going on now. And it started today, the Big Heist weekend sale, that is going on. We've got some big heists going on. Lupin is in that. Yep.
You got Lupin, that's all you need to know.
Yep.
Get your Lupin now.
I believe the two guys from Sarazanmai have a manga
Oh,
that's in
yeah.
that. So
Yep.
we've got some variety for the Big Heist. And then for you listeners for the podcast, coming up next week, we've got a tease. It starts on Sunday. If you are interested in anything we've talked about or things streaming this season, if we have something available from it, it will be in a sale because it is the Simulcast weekly specials. Those are coming up starting on Sunday, so watch for those.
It's like we planned that.
Yeah!
Almost.
Let's think about this.
What's the corporate's keyword right now? Synergy?
Synergy!
That's words.
So yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the sales update. That ends another episode of the Right Stuff Anime Podcast. Thank you.
Excellent.
Yes.
We'll save that for the next episode. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to us, and hope you come back next week. Or next week? No.
Next week on our irregular schedule.
On our
We hope you come
Next
back.
whenever we get around to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you can watch an old episode next week. No one's going to stop you.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
if anything,
Backlog.
you can visit.
Very true. So yeah, so for now, bye everybody.
Bye-bye.
That's all TNF's done.
All participants are wearing masks and practicing social distancing during this recording. The views and opinions expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of Right Stuff Anime. We'd love to hear from you. Send us your questions or comments to rspodcast@rightstuff.com, and we might just answer them in a future episode. That's rspodcast@rightstuff.com.